right. Kevin's going to continue on. I just want to cover one thing with you, and it's found in Luke 14. Luke 14. And verse 25. Who besides Glenda? You had the Amplified.
I do.
Okay. Can you read me Luke 14:25 through 30, please?
Now the crowds were going along with Jesus, and he turned and said to them, "If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother," that is in the sense of indifference to or relative disregard to them in comparison with his attitude toward God, and likewise his wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not persevere and carry his own cross and come after and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, wishing to build a farm building, does not first sit down and calculate the cost, whether he has sufficient means to finish it? Otherwise, when he has laid the foundation and is unable to complete the building of it, all who see it begin to mock and jeer at him, saying, "This man began to build and was not able, worth enough to finish."
All right. This goes hand in hand with what we've been teaching on the prodigal and on emotions. And this is the point that I want to get to. I want to get to you just a couple points before we get started. When you turn the page and get to the prodigal son, you realize that he goes to his father and says, "Give me the portion of my inheritance that you owe me. That you owe me." And the father doesn't argue with him. He gives it to him. So when you look at the cost of being a disciple, the cost for being a disciple has already been paid for you. And it's already been appropriated to you. And it's been placed in safekeeping in the vault in heaven that only Jesus can open. All right? And to make sure that you have access to this, God Father gave you a deposit of what was in the vault. And that's called faith. Are you with me? So what you need to start this process in you called destiny, God has not only paid the entire price for your destiny, but he's also give you a loan. A loan. Now, your credit was horrible. Amen. You know, you didn't have any credit. You had no credibility. That's what sin does. Sin destroys your credibility. You were created and born in original sin. So you had no credibility. He knew that. So he knew that in order for you to have a shot at this, you had to be given something that you didn't earn. Pretty simple now, isn't it? So what's he do? He gives you grace. He gives it to you. But you have to access it. Grace doesn't automatically just work for you. Your banking account, all right, doesn't automatically work for you. The more you put in, the more interest you make, right? The higher the balance, the more you make. The higher the balance, the more value you have to the bank and the banker. If you're getting this, say amen. All right. So he says, I'm going to give you the means where that you can walk into the bank without condemnation. And if you ask right and talk to the right individual in the bank, he just might give you access. Or she. Man contains both chromosomes. I'm not going to go into that. Right? So you go in, you don't ask the teller for a loan. You don't ask the receptionist for a loan. You have to see the loan officer. Now, his title or her title is officer, which means that that's what they're in charge of. So the chairman of the board of the bank has given his authority to the loan officer. All power and all authority have been given to Jesus. Right? So when you come in and ask, if you know how to ask, right, all of a sudden now you start getting access to the vault. Right? You can, and grace does that. You've not earned it. All right? So the banker says, I'll tell you what, you don't have any credit, so we don't know how you're going to do with it, so we're not going to give you $100,000. We're going to give you $500. Let's see how you do with that. So you're given a little. But then when you get to know the banker, you realize that little is much. Why do I say that? Because the little he gave you, if you handle it right, produces favor in him to grant you more money, more blessing, more access. Now, how does it feel emotionally to you when you know you don't have any credibility and someone gives you something? What's it do to you? Does it make you glad? Does it make you happy? It should. It should. Right? Now what happens if you march into the bank, bypass the receptionist and the teller, barge your way into the loan officer's office and say, I come boldly in the name of, and you're going to give me what I'm entitled to? Someone want to tell me quickly what happens?
Security.
What happens?
Security. Remove this person from my office.
Oh.
Cast them out.
Really? You don't even get heard? Not only don't you get heard, but the cameras, security, take pictures of you. You do that once or twice. Pretty soon they won't even let you in the bank. But what's that do to your emotions? Now suppose you know someone who's in and out of that bank and just loves it, and you can't even get in. How does that make you feel? Huh? You starting to get the picture here? Huh? So you go from grace to grace. And you go from blessing to blessing. And it's how you steward that blessing. Right? So this parable is very apropos. Jesus said, look, just because you got a good start, and just because you think you know something, doesn't mean that you're going to make it. You got to be diligent. You got to be on guard. You got to handle this wisely and let it handle you wisely. You got to listen to see where to invest it and where not to. Now, your emotions are constantly pulling at you, telling you where to invest and where not to. How do you handle that? I guess what I'm asking you is, whose entitlement program are you on? Yeah, started right out of the gate, didn't we? Huh? Because this is important. Your emotions will lie to you. Your emotions will tell you that you're entitled to something when indeed you're not. And you think you are because you think you read something in here that you can take to the loan officer and quote, and he or she goes, oh, wait a minute, okay. You're dressed like a virgin. You have the lamp like a virgin. You got no oil in your lamp. And is that why you're talking to me the way you are? Because you have no oil? Because as long as you continue to talk like that, and your light's not shining before men, you don't belong to me. So there is such a thing as having a form of godliness and denying the power thereof without it working in you, right? So that's important, right? So when the prodigal son comes to his senses, he said, you know what? My days of demanding are over. See, he did that. And he was lucky because his father gave him, right? But then he spent it wrong. And he realized he couldn't go back and get more because there was no more to have because he blew it. So it raises emotions in you. And the point I'm trying to get to you is, you persevere in discipleship, and you let the Spirit of God deal with your emotions. It doesn't matter what your husband, your wife, your children. That's what the beginning of it says. It doesn't matter what they say. Because they can't carry your cross for you. Each and every one of you in this room must decide for themselves what you're going to do with the training you're receiving. If you didn't value it, you wouldn't be here. Would you, Jay? You would not be here. All right? And God is so rich. You know, God doesn't have a vault with boxes in it that he gives you a key to. God doesn't have a safety deposit box for you. His blessing is so much bigger than and you got to remember, in God's vault, who put the treasure there? You didn't. Oh! No, you didn't put the treasure there. He did. In the banking system you're used to, you put things in the vault.